So typically we are going around sharing all of this information to what we call our local advisory councils. So when Tennessee Promise passed in 2015, we had a part of the legislation stated that we had to have a local advisory council in every county, and it's appointed by the county mayor, a group of people in the community that sort of do two main things: help guide us with the local community, because we know that what works for students in Henry County is probably very different than what works for students in Shelby County. So we are not physically in each of our 90 counties, and so we rely on our local advisory council to tell us how things work locally. And also to help us recruit our volunteer mentors. So because you guys are familiar with the program, you are also familiar with the fact that we pair every student with a volunteer mentor. So our local advisory councils often help us in recruiting those mentors, finding the places to go in the local counties to talk to people about the Tennessee Promise program. So this year, because they're online, we decided to invite all of our outside stakeholders. So we have business partners, college partners, local advisory council members, and like I said, anyone who wants to learn more about the students in their county. So just to give you guys an overview of tnAchieves, we are a privately funded 501c3 that partners with the state to facilitate Tennessee Promise in 90 of the 95 counties across the state of Tennessee. You'll see on this map that there are 5 counties in gray. Those are facilitated by the AIRS Foundation, which you guys familiar with Kyle? I'm sure that you are. Ashley, you may be aware of the AIRS Foundation, but they are the other partnering organization in the state of Tennessee that facilitates Tennessee Promise in those 5 counties. They'll be expanding this year to I think 7 more counties. But we will continue to work with the college students in those counties. So we will still be working in all 90 counties, at least for another 2.5 years, as we work with the college students in those counties. So since we started in 2008 in Knox County, we've worked with more than 440,000 students and 71,000 volunteers. Each year, we work with a little bit more than 600 high schools and 67 post-secondary institutions across the state. So any of the eligible Tennessee Promise institutions, we have at least one student go to each of them. Some of our main components, 3 of which have been with us since the very beginning of the program when it was just in Knox County, the first of which being the most known, the Last Dollar Scholarship. So Tennessee Promise is a last dollar scholarship that allows any student in the state to go to community college, technical college, and some of our 4-year schools free of tuition and fees. Not a lot of states can say this. Many more states are looking into it and jumping on board, other communities, but Tennessee really was the ringleader in the Promise network. The second thing being our volunteer mentors. So as do both of you guys serve as mentors? Kyle and Ashley? No?
I have in the past, but
okay.
Opted out as I was taking on a new job.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on. I understand. So our volunteer mentors work with our students once they apply to Tennessee Promise, and then through more on the access side. So trying to get more students into college, guide them through the process of getting into college, applying to college, being that encourager to the student of whatever high school that they choose. So mentors choose a high school and are assigned 5 to 10 students high school. The third thing is our community service component. So something we're really proud of and have given back over 3 million hours of community service since we started, which you'll see a little later in the presentation. But our board chairman is a Boy Scout, and community service is a really important piece of this program that he wanted to make sure stuck with it when we became a statewide organization. So community service has been with us since the beginning. We ask our students to give back 8 hours of community service each semester that they receive funding. We're really trying to create the culture of giving back to the community that is giving to them. So when we survey our students who complete community service, 96% of them say they enjoy it. So we're really trying to foster that culture and make sure that it continues moving forward. A lot of these students have never done community service before, so this is their first opportunity to do that and find somewhere in their community to help others. The fourth component are summer programs. So we have 3 summer programs. We do a bridge program that's sort of an academic boot camp for students needing learning support. Over 70% of our students need some sort of learning support when they graduate from high school. So they're not college ready according to their test scores and may need remediation in reading or writing or math. So they can come to this 3-week summer program and get instruction in reading, writing, and math, and then have the opportunity to test out of learning support classes. We offer that in person on each of the community colleges and then also online. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but we offered our first online program this summer and we'll certainly continue to do that. We've seen a lot of success with our bridge program. 89% of students that participate either test out or improve their test scores. So really have seen a lot of success in that program, and that started back in 2012. Our other summer program is called Summer Institute. This is a way more hands-on program. It's a 10-week typically program that we've hosted in Memphis for our most at-risk students. Hope to expand this one as well. This week or this year it was 6 weeks because we did a hybrid model. So it may be going to 6 weeks moving forward, but it's for students who need remediation in all 3 subjects. They take all 3 learning support courses that they need over the summer in addition to 3 college level courses. So they start college with 9 college credit hours under their belt and all their learning support completed. 100% of the students that participated in that institute program completed the program and will start with 9 credit hours in the fall. So it's a lot smaller, a lot more expensive, but super, super successful. And we do all the high impact practices of tutoring and cohorting students and really hands-on with each of the students that participate in that program to hopefully make sure they're more prepared for college once they start in the fall. And then our last component is our complete coaching model. So this started 3 years ago. It works with our most at-risk students as identified by their income. And coaches are assigned to a group of about 300 students that they work with once they've started college. So this is different than our mentors. This is more on the retention and success side rather than the access side. Our coaches work with those 300 students monthly to make sure that they're reaching out to them to help them with any challenges that they see come up in their college career. So it could be associated with academics and pointing them in the right direction to tutoring or other resources available on campus. But it also could be something outside of college. So it could be that they're having a family issue and need help working through that, or whatever is preventing them from being a successful college student. Our coaches are there to help. And you'll see in this green box, we very much are believers in communication. You guys are a part of tnAchieves, so you for sure are on the other end of some of this communication, but we send over 10 million emails a year and 6 million text messages. So we are making sure that students and parents and all of our stakeholders know what is going on at every step in the process. So huge fan of communication. So our reach that we've touched on a little bit, we work with 90 counties, 74 of which are identified as rural counties. 35 are identified as at-risk or distressed based on how the state identifies counties. And then I mentioned earlier, over 600 high schools. That includes public, private, and home schools. And then 67 post-secondary partners. You'll see the majority of our students do go to our community colleges. Almost 80% of our students are at the community colleges. And then the other 21% are pretty much evenly divided between our TCATs, which is Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and our four-year schools that allow Tennessee Promise. So when we look at our data, we always want to know how many of our students kind of fall into all the different categories that we look at to measure success. So when we are really pushing the applications in the high schools, we're really encouraging counselors to have every high school senior apply. So we know every high school senior is not going to go to a Tennessee Promise eligible institution, but it is a really good backup program. And the information we send them on completing FAFSA and applying to college is relevant no matter where they're going. So we really encourage all students to apply. 89% of high school seniors across the state do apply to Tennessee Promise. So we are touching, at least for a period of time, 89% of the high school seniors. When you look at all first-time, full-time freshmen at the community colleges in Tennessee, tnAchieves students are 78% of them. And then if you look at all of the graduates from the community colleges across the state, 86% of them were at one point a tnAchieves, Tennessee Promise applicant. And then when we look at different segments of our students, 56% of our students are eligible for part or full Pell Grants. Pell Grants are the federal need-based funding that's available to students based on their information from their FAFSA. So over half of our students are receiving at least partial Pell Grants. That could mean that they're not receiving any Tennessee Promise. So if a student gets a full Pell Grant, they don't receive any funding from Tennessee Promise. They are the ones that get coached. So they work with coaches throughout their college career, but aren't even receiving funding from Tennessee Promise. What we find is often students don't know where their funding is coming from. They just know it's covered. And because we've been communicating with them for a year, they assume that we're the ones covering it, but they don't care as long as their tuition is covered. 40% of our students are first generation students. So once they graduate, they would be the first in their families to have a college degree. So that's something that's really changing the trajectory of that family. And then 51% of our students are majoring in health sciences or STEM related fields. When you look at costs of Tennessee Promise, the scholarship alone, so just the tuition and fees, is about $32 million annually that the state is covering. And the operating budget for tnAchieves is about $2.5 million. Any questions so far before I go into the county level data? Okay, I'll carry on. So two of our biggest benchmarks on the high school side are FAFSA and community service. Across the state, 86% of students that apply to tnAchieves complete their FAFSA. So we do have some work to do, but Tennessee leads the way in FAFSA each year, always in the top 5. The FAFSA file rate across the country. Henry County is sitting a little under that. So 83% of applicants complete the FAFSA. So a little lower than the state average, but not too bad, and still 83%. I will say for a lot of states, 50% FAFSA is good. So 83 is looking really great for Henry County, but still have some work to do to get up to the state average. As far as community service goes, I mentioned earlier, over 3 million hours completed across the state since we started in 2008. In Henry County, that's over 6,200 hours that Henry County students have completed. So given back to their community, 6,200 hours. Something that we really look at each year, and the state measures each year also, is college going rate. So how many of our high school seniors are going to college? In 2020, you will see that was a large drop, largely in part to the pandemic that we are still living through. So dropped from about 62% all the way down to 57%. So not super thrilled about that, and a little bit nervous about this year as well, but we're hoping that that comes back up once students understand how important the value of education is. I know so many students that are working now and have that full-time paycheck, and so no longer think that college is the right move for them. So I think it's definitely a culture shift. I think the high school counselors are telling us that it's just so much harder to talk about the importance of college when they're not in front of them all the time, which I can see. It's also not the number one priority when you can't get students to log in to even go to their English class. They're probably not focused on talking about college. So there's a lot going on. But in Henry County, 2019, they were sitting over the state average by about 7%. And then in 2020 dropped below the state average by about 4%. So definitely seeing that trend of less students going to college, and hoping 2021 is a different story. As far as applicants are concerned, we work with over 60,000 students each year that apply to Tennessee Promise in our in Henry County. It's a little over 250 students. 60 of them enroll with Tennessee Promise. That doesn't mean the other 200 are not going to college. That just means many of them decided to go elsewhere to college or a non-Promise institution. But 60 of them do end up going to a Tennessee Promise institution with the scholarship, that last dollar scholarship. Retention and graduation rates for Henry County are really awesome. I wish our retention and graduation rates across the state were this high. So we may not see as many students going to college in Henry County, but the ones that do are doing really well. Our retention rate across the state for tnAchieves students is 67%. It's higher than the state averages, but we know that we have a lot of work to do. In Henry County, it's 85%. So if I could say our retention rate across the state was 85%, I think I would retire. And then 3-year grad rates are 62% for all of our students across the state. It's only 35%. So almost double, which is really, really exciting. So Henry County students, hopefully the ones that go, continue to do so well moving forward.
Hey, Jackie, can I ask a question on that one?
Yeah.
So the 60% that you have there, or 60 students, sorry, the 60 students.
Yeah.
Does that not include students who are receiving Pell Grant funding?
It does. It does. So anybody
It does include the Pell Grant.
eligible. Yeah. So
Okay, so they're really just going to a university that's not taking it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
We still, if they're not receiving funding, we still count them as Tennessee Promise students if they're eligible. About a quarter of our students don't receive it. Half of them are eligible for some or all. So it does include anyone who's receiving other aid. Good question. So like I said, 67% is our retention rate for students across the state, regardless of what Tennessee Promise institution they go to. If you look at first-time, full-time freshmen at community colleges, it's 53% retention. So the number of students who come that second year. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we are doing better than the state averages. So putting that structure into place and having deadlines and things that students have to follow is helping, in addition to all the other programming that we put in place. If you look at our students, anybody who applies that goes anywhere to college, so even outside of Tennessee Promise institutions, the retention rate is 74%. So that shows you that a lot of the students that aren't Promise institutions are going to four-year schools that typically have higher retention rates. 6-year grad rate, 35% across the state, and for tnAchieves students, it's 51%. If you look at some of the different cohorts of students based on the programs that we offer, our summer program students are performing 34% higher than their peers. The students that are in the complete model, so the proactive coaching model, are performing 23% higher than their peers. And then we've got a new program called Knox Promise. It's a privately funded program in Knox County that is very similar to our proactive complete coaching model, but it works with every student regardless of income, and then also is able to offer emergency grant funding to any student So has a little bit more involved than the complete coaching model, but the students that participate in Knox Promise are doing 42% better than their peers. And then our mentoring program. So this is what we really refer to as the heart of our program. Our mentors are not meant to be the experts. They are meant to be there as a task manager, as a resource for students. So someone that they can go to ask questions, and then an encourager, which I think is probably the most important piece. A lot of our students are first generation and do not have someone at home that's encouraging them to go on to get their post-secondary credential, or not encouraging them through the process. So once they hit that first roadblock, don't have somebody that's really pushing them to get through that challenge. So we are always looking for mentors. We need about 9,000 across the state to work with the 60,000 students that apply. It's a 12-hour annual commitment. So if you are interested, you can go to tnAchieves.org and register for this year. The deadline is December, so we still have some time, but if you are interested, it's not a super big commitment time-wise, but it can be super helpful to students that you would be mentoring. And in Henry County this year, we need 40 mentors. Mentoring this year will be a little bit different than it's ever been in the past. So prior to last year, everything was in person, and then some text message and email communication. Last year, we went completely virtual and got a platform that mentors were able to mentor their students completely virtually. This year, we're sort of doing a mix of both. So we will still have that platform where mentors can work with their students virtually, but we will be offering some in-person options for mentors and students to get together if they feel like that's more helpful in their relationship building. So 40 mentors needed in Henry County. And then next steps. Our biggest question when we do these presentations is, what can I actually do to help? So the first one is, of course, becoming a mentor. If you're interested, you can apply or share it with anyone that you know. Connecting us with your community. So we probably have been to every Rotary Club across the state multiple times. And we're always looking for those invitations to go to Rotaries and to go to other community organizations. So if you're part of a group in your local community that you think would be interested in hearing about the mentoring program, we're always happy to come. So if you just email mentors@tnAchieves.org. Any information, we're always happy to come or do a virtual meeting or whatever. Oftentimes talking to large organizations or businesses in the community to talk to employers about becoming mentors. So that's definitely a place that we look for. And of course, our post-secondary and K-12 partners are both large groups of mentors in each of our communities. And the final thing is telling students about Tennessee Promise. So the application is live. It's due in November. Students need to apply now. So class of 2022 has already started applying. And they have just a few more weeks before the application will close. And if they don't apply as a high school senior, they are no longer eligible for Tennessee Promise moving forward. So they can't apply next year if they miss this year. So these are the 3 next steps and ways that you can really get involved. But that is all the information that we have, and can always dig further if there are things that you're interested in or more questions you have. This is my, so you can always text or email or call me at any time. Any other questions you have, Kyle? Are you going to these for like all of the counties in your service area?
Half of them. Our
I was going to say, you're going to get bored.
Doing the other half. So
okay, awesome.
Yeah, and in fact, I was sidelined working on an email because the Madison County one, I think I'll be able to make it to the beginning, but I won't be able to stay.
Okay. Well, all of these will be posted on our website. So if you want to watch them later, just look at the data. You'll be able to scroll through and see any of the ones you missed. So, but always happy to send you anything you need. And Ashley, thank you so much also for joining us. I'm glad that you guys were able to hop on today. But I've already exceeded. I don't know how I keep talking so long, but please let me know if you have questions moving forward, but I'll let you go on to the rest of your day. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.